Marcus Kane sat in the corner booth of the Galaxy View restaurant on Luna Station, watching his 8-year-old son Jake stare out the massive window at Earth hanging in the black sky. The boy had not spoken a single word in his entire life. Not one sound. Not even a cry when he was born. The restaurant buzzed with conversations in a dozen languages. Business deals worth billions of credits were made over dinner here every night. Politicians from across the 17 human colonies came, here to make secret agreements, but Marcus only cared about the small boy sitting beside him, lost in his own silent world. Jake's dark hair fell over his eyes as he traced patterns on the table with his finger, the same circles and lines he always drew. Marcus had learned to read these patterns over the years. Circles meant Jake was happy. Straight lines meant he was upset. Tonight Jake drew both, over and over. Marcus checked his watch. The meeting with the mining consortium from Titan would start in 10 minutes. He needed to close this deal. The rare metals from Saturn's moons would power the next generation of starships. But watching Jake draw his silent patterns made Marcus wonder if all the money and power in the galaxy meant anything when he could not talk to his own son. The doctors on Earth had tried everything. Brain scans showed Jake's mind worked perfectly. He understood every word people said to him. He could read and write better than most children his age, but something deep inside kept him from speaking. The specialists said his condition had no cure. They gave it long medical names that meant nothing to Marcus. He had taken Jake to doctors on Mars, on Europa, even to the research stations at Alpha Centauri, where they had the most advanced medical technology in human space. Every expert said the same thing. Jake would never speak. Marcus should accept it and move on. A young woman with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail approached their table. She wore the standard white uniform of the restaurant staff. Her name tag read, Lisa Martinez, server. She looked to be in her late 20s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Good evening, Mr. Kane," she said in a soft voice. "Can I get you anything while you wait for your guests?" Marcus looked up from his tablet where he was reviewing the contract terms. "Just water for me, and maybe some juice for Jake here." Lisa nodded and turned to Jake. Instead of walking away, she knelt down beside his chair so they were at the same eye level. Jake stopped drawing his patterns and looked at her. Lisa raised her right hand and made a series of small gestures. Her fingers moved in ways Marcus had never seen before. Not like the sign language he had tried to learn years ago. This was different, smoother, like she was painting pictures in the air. Jake's eyes grew wide. He sat up straight in his chair for the first time all evening. Then, slowly, he lifted his own small hands and made similar gestures back to Lisa. Marcus felt his heart stop. Jake was communicating. Actually communicating with another person. Lisa smiled and made more gestures. Jake responded again, his movements becoming more confident. Lisa nodded as if she understood every motion he made. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pad of paper. She drew a simple picture of a glass and pointed to Jake. Jake looked at the drawing, then pointed to himself and nodded. Lisa drew another picture of different drinks. Jake pointed to one that looked like orange juice. "Orange juice it is," Lisa said out loud. Then she made more hand gestures to Jake. He smiled. Marcus had not seen his son smile in weeks. Lisa stood up and looked at Marcus. "I'll be right back with your drinks." After she left, Marcus stared at Jake in amazement. His son was still sitting, up straight, his eyes bright and alert. The patterns he drew on the table now looked different. More organized, more purposeful. "Jake," Marcus whispered. "How did you understand her?" Jake looked at his father and made the same hand gestures Lisa had used. Marcus had no idea what they meant, but he could see intelligence behind every movement. This was not random motion. This was language. Lisa returned with their drinks. She set the water in front of Marcus and the orange juice in front of Jake. Again, she knelt beside Jake's chair and made more gestures. Jake responded immediately, his hands moving with growing confidence. Marcus watched this silent conversation continue for several minutes. Jake was more animated than Marcus had seen him in years. His whole body seemed alive with communication. "Excuse me?" Marcus said to Lisa. "What are you doing? How are you talking to him?" Lisa looked up at Marcus with surprise, as if she had forgotten he was there. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your evening. It's just that I could tell he wanted to communicate. Some children have different ways of expressing themselves." "But how did you know what he was saying?" "No one has ever been able to understand him before." Lisa glanced around the restaurant, then back at Marcus. "I learned these techniques working with children on the frontier colonies, places where they don't have fancy speech therapy centers or expensive medical equipment. Sometimes the old ways work better than all the technology in the galaxy." She made a few more gestures to Jake. He responded with what looked like excitement, his hands moving quickly through a series of complex patterns. "He's telling me about the stars," Lisa said quietly. "About how they look different from here than from Earth. He has a very active imagination." Marcus felt tears building in his eyes. For 8 years he had wondered what thoughts lived inside his son's mind. Now, for the first time, someone was showing him the answer. The mining consortium delegation arrived at that moment, filling the restaurant with loud voices and expensive suits. Marcus looked at them, then at Jake, who had returned to drawing patterns on the table. But now Marcus could see these were not random shapes. They were Jake's attempt to continue the conversation Lisa had started. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He stood up and walked over to the consortium leaders. "Gentlemen," he said, "I'm afraid we'll need to reschedule. Something more important has come up." Marcus Kane could not sleep. 3 days had passed since the meeting at the Galaxy View restaurant, and he kept thinking about Lisa Martinez. How had a simple waitress done what teams of doctors could not do? How had she understood Jake when no one else could? He sat in his office on the top floor of Kane Industries Tower, looking out at the lights of New Geneva City below. His personal assistant had already gathered basic information about Lisa. She was 28 years old, born on Earth in Phoenix, Arizona. No criminal record, no outstanding debts. She had worked at the restaurant for 8 months, but there were gaps in her history. Big gaps. For 3 years before taking the waitress job, there was no record of Lisa Martinez anywhere in the system. No work history, no travel records, no credit transactions. It was as if she had vanished from existence and then reappeared serving food on Luna Station. Marcus pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Detective Ray Cooper," he said to his assistant. Ray Cooper was an old friend who now ran a private investigation company. He specialized in finding people who did not want to be found. If anyone could uncover Lisa's missing years, it would be Ray. "Marcus," Ray's voice came through the speaker. "Let me guess, you need someone investigated." "A woman named Lisa Martinez. She works at the Galaxy View restaurant on Luna Station. I need to know everything about her, especially what she was doing between 3 and 4 years ago." The usual rate, double it. "And Ray, I need this information yesterday." 2 days later, Ray called back. "Marcus, you need to sit down for this one. Lisa Martinez is not who she appears to be." Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "What did you find?" "Her real name is Dr. Lisa Maria Santos Martinez. She has 3 degrees, linguistics from Stanford, xenobiology from the Mars Institute, and a doctorate in something called empathic communication theory from the research station at Proxima Centauri." Marcus felt his breath catch. "Go on." 4 years ago, she was part of the first contact team that made initial contact with an alien species, the Ethereal Collective. Ever hear of them? Marcus had heard whispers, rumors of peaceful aliens who had approached human space 3 years ago. The contact had ended badly, but the details were classified at the highest levels of government. "What happened during first contact?" Marcus asked. Ray's voice became serious. "From what I could piece together, the ethereals communicate differently than humans. They don't use sounds or written words. They use something the reports call empathic resonance, emotional patterns mixed with energy fields. Lisa was the only human on the contact team who figured out how to understand them. But the mission failed. Worse than failed, it was a disaster. The ethereals tried to communicate with the human delegation for weeks. The military commanders got nervous because the aliens weren't talking in ways humans could understand. They thought the silence meant the aliens were planning an attack. Marcus closed his eyes. He could guess what happened next. The fleet opened fire on the ethereal ships, destroyed 3 of them before the rest escaped back to wherever they came. Lisa resigned from the contact team the next day and disappeared. Until now. After Ray hung up, Marcus sat in his office for hours thinking. Lisa had learned to communicate with alien beings who used emotional patterns instead of words. No wonder she could understand Jake. His son might not speak with his voice, but he communicated with his emotions and gestures in ways that Lisa recognized. The next evening, Marcus returned to the Galaxy View restaurant. He did not bring Jake this time. He wanted to talk to Lisa alone. She was serving a table of tourists from the Mars colonies when she saw him. Her face went pale, but she finished taking their order before walking over to his table. "Mr. Kane, I wasn't expecting to see you again. So soon. Sit down, Dr. Santos Martinez." Lisa froze. For a moment, Marcus thought she might run. Then she pulled out the chair across from him and sat down slowly. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. "I found out yesterday. The question is, why are you hiding? Why are you working as a waitress when you should be helping children like my son?" Lisa looked around the restaurant to make sure no one was listening. "Because the last time I tried to help with communication problems, people died. 3 ships full of peaceful beings who just wanted to talk. That wasn't your fault, wasn't it? I was supposed to be the expert. I was supposed to make communication possible. Instead, I watched good people make the worst decision in human history because I couldn't translate fast enough." Marcus leaned forward. "Jake has made more progress in 3 days than he has in 8 years. Because of you. Because of what you learned from the ethereals. Your son is different, Mr. Kane. Not broken. Not disabled. Different. He processes emotions and communication in ways that most humans have forgotten how to do. The children I worked with on the frontier colonies, the ones I learned my techniques from, they were all like Jake. They think and feel in patterns that connect to something deeper." "What do you mean?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "The ethereals told me something before the attack. They said humans were evolving, that some human children were being born with natural abilities to communicate through empathic resonance. Your son might be one of them." Marcus felt the world shift around him. "Are you saying Jake is part alien?" "No. I'm saying he might be part of humanity's future. The ethereals have been watching our species for generations. They were excited to make contact because they saw signs that humans were developing the same communication abilities they use." A crash of dishes from the kitchen made them both jump. Lisa stood up quickly. "I have to get back to work. Please, Mr. Kane, don't tell anyone what I told you. The government spent 3 years trying to find me after I disappeared. If they know I'm here, they'll want me to help them prepare for war with the ethereals. What if the ethereals come back?" Lisa's eyes filled with fear. "Then we'll need every child like Jake we can find, because they might be the only ones who can prevent another disaster." She walked away, leaving Marcus alone with questions that would change everything. The emergency alarm woke Marcus Kane at 4 a.m. His personal communicator buzzed with urgent messages from the Galactic Defense Council. He rolled out of bed and activated the wall screen in his bedroom. Admiral Grace Kelly's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was grim. "Marcus, we need you at the emergency session in 1 hour. The ethereals are back." Marcus felt his blood turn cold. "Back? Where?" 12 ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system 6 hours ago. They're not moving. They're not responding to any communication attempts. They're just sitting there. Marcus got dressed quickly and took his private shuttle to the Galactic Defense Council headquarters on Luna Station. The emergency session was already underway when he arrived. Representatives from all 17 human colonies filled the massive conference room. Everyone was talking at once. "We should strike first this time," shouted Representative Dan Wilson from the Mars colonies. "We can't let them get closer to Earth." "We don't even know why they're here," replied Dr. Amy Chen from the Science Council. "Maybe they come in peace." Admiral Kelly stood up and the room fell silent. 3 years ago, we made contact with these beings. The contact ended with us firing on their ships. Now they're back with more ships than before. We have to assume they want revenge. Marcus thought about Jake, who was sleeping safely in their home on Luna Station. His son had made amazing progress in the past 2 weeks. Lisa had been visiting them every evening after her shift at the restaurant. Jake was starting to make sounds now. Not words yet, but sounds that seemed to have meaning. More importantly, Jake had started communicating with other children. Marcus had arranged for him to meet 3 other nonverbal children on Luna Station. Within minutes of meeting each other, all 4 children had been communicating through gestures and expressions that seemed to make perfect sense to them. Lisa had been right. These children were different. They understood each other in ways that normal humans could not understand them. What about trying to communicate with them again? Marcus asked the room. The room erupted in angry voices. Communication failed last time, someone shouted. They don't want to talk, they want to fight. Admiral Kelly raised her hand for silence. The problem is that we don't have anyone who can talk to them. Dr. Santos Martinez disappeared after the first contact disaster. She was our only expert in their communication methods. Marcus kept his face blank. He could not let anyone know that Lisa was working as a waitress just 20 floors below this conference room. How long before they reach Earth? Marcus asked. At their current speed, 18 hours. But they could move faster if they wanted to. We think they're waiting for something. Dr. Chen pulled up a display showing the ethereal ships. They were beautiful, Marcus had to admit, like giant crystals floating in space, glowing with soft blue light. They did not look like warships. Have we tried all forms of communication? Marcus asked. Radio, laser, quantum transmission, everything. Admiral Kelly replied. They're not responding to anything. The meeting continued for 3 hours. In the end, the Council voted to prepare the defense fleet. If the ethereal ships moved closer to Earth, human forces would attack. Marcus left the meeting feeling sick. He took the elevator down to the Galaxy View restaurant. It was early morning, and the restaurant was almost empty. Lisa was setting up tables for the breakfast service. We need to talk, Marcus said quietly. Lisa looked at his face and knew something was wrong. She led him to a storage room behind the kitchen where they could speak privately. The ethereals are back, Marcus said. 12 ships. The Council is preparing to attack them. Lisa sat down hard on a box of supplies. No, not again. They're not responding to any communication attempts. The Council thinks they want revenge for the attack 3 years ago. They don't want revenge, Lisa said. That's not how they think. If they came back, it's because they need help. Help with what? Lisa was quiet for a moment. Before the attack 3 years ago, they tried to tell us something. Something about their home world. The translation was difficult, but I think they were saying it was in danger. What kind of danger? I don't know. The communication was cut off when the shooting started. Lisa stood up and started pacing. If they came back, it means the danger is worse. They need human help. What kind of help could we give them? They're far more advanced than we are. Not in everything. Humans have some technologies that are unique. Our quantum energy systems. Our ability to manipulate space-time. There might be something we have that they need. Marcus thought about this. The Council won't listen to theories. They want facts. And they want Dr. Santos Martinez to communicate with the ethereals. I can't go back to that world, Marcus. I can't be responsible for another disaster. What if there's no disaster this time? What if you can prevent one? Lisa shook her head. You don't understand. The weight of those 3 ships, all those lives, lost because I couldn't make the translation work fast enough. I see their faces every night when I try to sleep. Marcus grabbed her shoulders gently. What about Jake? What about all the children like him? If you're right, if they represent humanity's future, then they need to be part of this. Children can't be involved in military operations. Not military operations. Communication. Jake has been practicing with the other children. They're getting better at understanding each other every day. Maybe they can help translate. Lisa stared at him. You want to bring children into a first contact situation? I want to bring the right people into a first contact situation. Adults failed last time. Maybe it's time to let the children try. Outside the storage room, they could hear the restaurant starting to fill with customers. People were talking about the alien ships. Fear was spreading through Luna Station. I need time to think, Lisa said. We don't have time. The council is meeting again in 6 hours. If you don't come forward, they're going to attack. Lisa walked to the small window in the storage room and looked out at Earth hanging in the black sky. If I do this, if I reveal myself, everything changes. My quiet life disappears. I become the person responsible for either saving 2 species or destroying them. You're already responsible, Marcus said gently. The question is whether you're going to do something about it. Lisa was quiet for a long time. Finally, she turned back to Marcus. If I agree to this, I want Jake and the other children kept safe. Whatever happens, they don't get hurt. I promise. And I want to talk to the ethereals alone first. No military officials, no politicians, just me and them. Marcus nodded. I can arrange that. Lisa took a deep breath. Then I guess Dr. Santos Martinez is coming out of hiding. But even as she said it, Marcus could see the fear in her eyes. The fear that history was about to repeat itself, with even higher stakes this time. Marcus Kane stood in the emergency council meeting and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He lied to the most powerful people in human space. I've found Dr. Santos Martinez, he announced. She's agreed to help, but she has conditions. Admiral, Kelly leaned forward. What conditions? She wants to make first contact at my private space station. No military personnel, no government officials. Just her and a small support team. Representative Wilson slammed his hand on the table. Absolutely not. We need military oversight. We can't let one person make decisions for all of humanity. One person already did that 3 years ago, Marcus replied calmly. The person who gave the order to fire. This time we try a different approach. Dr. Chen spoke up. What makes you think this will work better than last time? Marcus had prepared for this question. Dr. Santos Martinez has been studying new communication techniques. She believes the children who have difficulty speaking might actually be better at understanding the ethereals than normal adults. The room erupted in arguments. Half the council thought the idea was brilliant. The other half thought it was insane. Admiral Kelly finally called for order. The ethereal ships are still 12 hours away from Earth. We don't have time for long debates. Mr. Kane, you have 6 hours to make this work. If communication fails, we attack. 3 hours later, Marcus met Lisa at his private space station. Kane Station was smaller than Luna Station, but had the most advanced communication equipment money could buy. More importantly, it was far from government control. Lisa had brought Jake and 3 other children with her. 8-year-old Nina Chen, whose parents ran a small shop on Luna Station. 10-year-old Carlos Ruiz, whose father worked in the mining stations. And 6-year-old Amy Foster, whose mother was a teacher. All 4 children had the same communication differences as Jake. All 4 had learned to understand each other using Lisa's techniques. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked Lisa as they prepared the communication array. No, Lisa replied honestly. But I'm sure about them. She pointed to the 4 children who were sitting together and communicating through their hand gestures and facial expressions. Watch them carefully. They understand each other perfectly. They process emotional information in ways that normal humans can't. Marcus activated the long-range communication system and sent a message toward the ethereal ships. This is Kane Station. We request communication with the ethereal collective. Dr. Lisa Santos Martinez is here. They waited. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. Then the communication array began to glow with soft blue light. The same blue light that surrounded the ethereal ships. Lisa sat down at the communication console and closed her eyes. Marcus watched as her hands began to move, in strange patterns over the control surface. not touching anything, just moving through the air above the controls. The children stopped their own conversations and turned to watch Lisa. Their eyes grew wide, and then all four of them stood up and walked to the communication console. "It's okay," Lisa said softly to Marcus. "Let them come." Jake reached the console first. He put his small hands next to Lisa's and began to move them in similar patterns. The other children joined him. Soon, all five of them were moving their hands through the blue light that now filled the entire communication room. Marcus watched in amazement as patterns of light began to form in the air. Complex, beautiful patterns that seemed to pulse with emotion and meaning. The children and Lisa were having a conversation with beings on ships millions of miles away. The conversation continued for over an hour. Sometimes Lisa would speak quietly to the children in English. Sometimes they would nod or shake their heads. But most of the communication happened through the light patterns and the movement of their hands. Finally, Lisa opened her eyes and turned to Marcus. Her face was wet with tears. "Their homeworld is dying," she said. "A dark matter storm is destroying their solar system. They have maybe 6 months before their planet becomes uninhabitable. What do they want from us? Human quantum technology. Our ability to create energy barriers in space. They need us to help them build a shield around their world." Marcus felt relief flood through him. "That's it? They just want our help with an engineering project? It's not that simple. The quantum barrier they need would require every human colony to contribute resources. It would cost trillions of credits and take years to build. But we can do it." Lisa nodded. "We can do it. But there's more." She looked at the four children, who were still moving their hands through the blue light. Patterns. They seemed completely absorbed in their communication with the ethereals. The ethereals have been studying human children like Jake for over 50 years. They say these children aren't disabled or broken. They're the next step in human evolution. Marcus stared at his son, who was now moving his hands in complex patterns that seemed to create shapes in the blue light. "What do you mean?" "The universe is full of species that communicate through empathic resonance, emotional patterns mixed with energy fields. Most humans lost this ability thousands of years ago when they developed spoken language. But some children are being born with the old abilities restored." "You're saying Jake is telepathic?" "Not telepathic exactly. Empathic. He can feel and share emotional energy in ways that most humans can't. The ethereals recognize this ability because it's how they communicate with each other." Marcus watched Jake create a pattern of light that looked like a flower blooming. Nina Chen responded with a pattern that looked like rain falling. They were having a conversation about growth and renewal. "The ethereals want to make a trade," Lisa continued. "They'll give us biotechnology that can enhance these natural abilities in human children. Not change them, but help them develop their gifts fully. In return, we help save their world." "And then what?" Lisa smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "Then humanity becomes part of the galactic community. Not as conquerors or warriors, but as translators and peacemakers. Children like Jake become ambassadors to species we haven't even met yet." Marcus looked at his son, who was now teaching Carlos how to create the flower pattern in the light. For 8 years, Marcus had thought Jake was broken. Now he was learning that his son might be the future of human civilization. The communication console chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Kelly. "Kane Station, you have 2 hours before we attack. What's your status?" Marcus looked at Lisa, then at the four children who were still deep in conversation with alien beings millions of miles away. "Tell her we need more time," Lisa said. The children are negotiating the details of saving 2 worlds. 6 months later, Marcus Kane stood on the observation deck of his space station and watched the most amazing sight in human history. Thousands of human ships worked alongside 12 ethereal vessels to complete the quantum barrier around the ethereal homeworld. The barrier looked like a giant soap bubble made of pure energy, protecting an entire solar system from the dark matter storm that had threatened to destroy it. Human engineers and ethereal technicians had worked together to build something that neither species could have created alone. But the real miracle was happening in the communication center behind him. Jake sat at a control console, his hands moving through patterns of blue and gold light as he translated between human engineers and ethereal workers. His 9-year-old voice was clear and confident as he spoke both languages fluently. "The ethereals say the barrier is holding steady," Jake announced to the room full of adult engineers. "They want to know if we can increase power to Section 7. Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead human engineer, smiled at Jake. "Tell them we can boost power by 15%, but we need to wait 2 hours for the generators to cool down." Jake nodded and turned back to the light patterns. His hands moved in graceful motions, and the blue light responded with swirling shapes that somehow conveyed technical information across millions of miles of space. Marcus still found it hard to believe. His son, who had never spoken a word for 8 years, was now humanity's chief translator in the most important project in galactic history. The changes had started 3 months ago, when the ethereals shared their biotechnology with human medical teams. The treatment was not a cure because there was nothing to cure. Instead, it was an enhancement that helped children like Jake develop their natural empathic abilities. Jake had been the first to receive the treatment. Within days, he was not only speaking in English but also communicating fluently with the ethereals. Soon, other children with similar abilities were brought to Kane Station for enhancement. Now there were 47 children working as translators between humans and ethereals. They ranged in age from 5 to 15. All of them had been considered disabled before the ethereal contact. Now they were the most important people in human space. Marcus walked into the communication center just as Jake finished his translation session. The boy looked tired but happy. The other children were gathering around him, chattering excitedly about the day's work. "How did it go today?" Marcus asked his son. "Great, Dad. The barrier is almost finished. The ethereals are really excited. They say their people will be safe now." Nina Chen, now 9 years old, bounced over to them. "Mr. Kane, the ethereals told us something amazing today. They want to introduce us to other species." "Other species?" Carlos Ruiz, who had grown 3 inches in the past 6 months, nodded eagerly. "There are dozens of species that communicate like the ethereals do. They want humans to join something called the Empathic Alliance." Marcus looked at Lisa, who was reviewing translation logs at a nearby station. She had changed as much as the children had. The guilt and fear that had haunted her for years was gone, replaced by pride in what they had accomplished together. "Is this true?" Marcus asked her. Lisa smiled. "The galaxy is much more crowded than we thought. Most advanced species communicate through empathic resonance. They've been waiting for humanity to develop these abilities for centuries." Amy Foster, now 7 and the youngest of the translator children, tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "The ethereals say we're not the first species to join the alliance, but we might be the most important." "Why?" "Because humans have something special. We can learn new forms of communication really fast, and we're good at teaching others." Amy's face was serious despite her young age. "They think humans could become the teachers for the whole galaxy." Marcus sat down so he could look Amy in the eye. "What do you mean, teachers?" Jake answered for her. "Dad, there are species out there that want to learn empathic communication, but can't do it naturally. Humans seem to be really good at building bridges between different types of thinking." Lisa joined the conversation. "The ethereals have been part of the alliance for thousands of years, but they've never been able to help other species develop empathic abilities. Humans appear to have a unique talent for translation and teaching." Marcus thought about this. So these children wouldn't just be translators, they'd be ambassadors and teachers. "More than that," Lisa said. "They'd be the foundation of a new kind of civilization, one based on understanding instead of conquest." The next day, Marcus made an announcement that shocked the business world and changed the future of humanity. He stepped down as CEO of Kane Industries and used his entire fortune to establish the Human Bridge Foundation. The foundation's mission was simple: find children with empathic communication abilities and help them develop their gifts. Train them to become ambassadors and teachers. Build schools where they could learn alongside children from other species. Jake became the Foundation's first student and its youngest board member. At 9 years old, he was already planning curriculum for schools that would teach empathic communication to humans and aliens alike. The Galaxy View restaurant became the Foundation's first training center. Lisa, who was now director of empathic education, had turned the restaurant into a meeting place where children from dozens of worlds could learn together. Marcus often watched through the restaurant's windows as human children played and learned alongside young beings from other planets. They communicated through light patterns, emotional resonance, and methods that adult humans were still trying to understand. The children didn't see differences between species. They saw friends who happened to look different and think in different ways. To them, this was normal. One evening, as Marcus watched Jake teach a group of young ethereals how to understand human emotional patterns, he realized something profound. The future of the galaxy wasn't being shaped by politicians or generals or business leaders. It was being shaped by children who had once been considered broken, but who turned out to be exactly what the universe needed. Lisa joined him at the window. Having second thoughts about giving up your business empire? Marcus smiled as he watched his son demonstrate how human laughter translated into ethereal light patterns. I didn't give up my empire. I just discovered what real wealth looks like. In the distance, Earth hung in the black sky, surrounded by ships from a dozen different worlds, all of them working together, all of them communicating through the bridge built by children who had once been silent. Jake waved at his father through the window, his face bright with the joy of a child who had finally found his voice and used it to bring the galaxy together.